Welcome to Jazz Voices, where we're shining the light on great jazz vocalists from everywhere. And today, I am hanging out with one of my favoritist, my favorite vocalist, the fabulous, multi-talented singer-songwriter, producer, award-winning vocalist, jazz vocalist, Carmen Lundy. Welcome to Jazz Voices Live, Carmen.
It's great to be here with you.
Yes, I'm so glad to see you. Anybody who watches or listens to my radio show knows your music, believe me, because yes, I'm always playing it. My cousin actually gave me a CD back in the Changes CD.
Oh, good.
Yes, and I was, it's like, Carmen Lundy, who is this? And I've been hooked ever since.
Wow, Changes. That was
2011. I think.
Yeah, you're right. You're right.
Like 11. Somewhere around there. Yeah.
So that's about a good little over 10 years. Yeah.
Yeah.
Great.
Yeah. So anyway, I share your music all the time because people need to hear it for sure. Well, let me tell those who have not heard of you, which I can't imagine why they wouldn't have, a little bit about you. You have how many albums? 16 albums?
Yes.
Okay, yes. And your last album, Modern Ancestors, was nominated for a Grammy. And you have a brand new album out entitled Fade to Black, which we're going to talk about a little bit. And you've worked with, so many people. Terry Lynn Carrington, Ernie Watts, Regina Carter, and I love your music. You are a true jazz artist.
Thank you.
And it's funny to me, Kelly, who would you like to sit down and have lunch with as a jazz vocalist? I would say Carmen Lundy, for sure. So I want to know your story. Let's start from the beginning. You were born and raised in Florida, South Florida, and a huge family, and you're the oldest. Tell us about that. Tell us about what was, of 7. Wow. What was it like growing up in Florida with a big family?
Well, Miami is a very pretty place. It's just pretty there. And my mother was the oldest of her siblings. So my grandmother had 15 children, and my mother was the first of those 15 to actually live past the first few weeks of life.
Oh, wow.
So my mother was in that, I think she was the 4th child, but the first that lived. And she has 10 other siblings. So it's 11. So my mom was the oldest, and I don't know if it's in the press release you saw, but there's a film about the Apostolic Singers of Miami that I just won the best documentary film at the Downtown LA Film Festival just last month. And so my mother sang with the same women for over 40 years. So I grew up in a family that went to church all of the time. And I'm talking about stomped down, fire breathing church.
Yeah.
And so my grandfather built the church. My grandparents owned the family market in a town called Perrine, Florida. And all of my grandmother and my grandfather's siblings lived next door to each other for 3 blocks. And they built all the homes. They built the beauty parlor. They built, my mother was also a milliner. They built her hat shop. It was just, I grew up and I had so many cousins that my cousins was like instant friends. I still have trouble making friends to this day because I just expect that if I want to be your friend, you're my friend,
Right.
So all of my early childhood, including my brother Curtis, we were the first 2 of 7. So my mother had this, she took this, my grandfather's cue, that if you put the tools in the environment where the kids grow up, they will naturally sort of take on an interest with those tools, whatever they are. Mm-hmm. And the tools for us, my mother said typewriter, there was a piano, the things that you could just sort of like play around with, but actually they are tools for developing and understanding and actually stimulating your interest in your mind and the creativity. So when I was about 4 or 5, having watched my mother rehearse this gospel group since the time I think I was learning to walk, I would listen to music in the house. And I just thought that's what everybody did that. And so when my mother noticed me plucking out the tunes that they had been, doing in church or doing in whatever their concerts were, she arranged for me to take piano lessons. And at the same time she arranged for me to take piano lessons, she arranged for my brother, Curtis, to take lessons too. So we took lessons from a woman. My mother was in social work and did many things. But I think when we were growing up in our maybe single digit years, she had a second job, a third job. All the 7 kids weren't there yet, but she had one of those side jobs was housekeeping. And the woman that she was housekeeping for the family, that lady was a classical piano major and performed and, semi-professional. And her husband worked at the Miami Herald. And this is where I went. I would go with my mother because I was a kid and, I would hang with her. So she arranged for me to get piano lessons once she saw me, tinkling and stuff. So I studied with Leslie Bloss for about 4 or 5 years. And my aunt was a piano player for my mother's gospel group. And she was really the first pianist I ever saw or heard. So she'd be like, no, your note, no, that's not that's yours, that sort of thing. And I was like, oh, I get it. So she's got that one and she's got that one. And when they start, it's like, oh my God, they put it together. So as a little girl, I thought, I know their music. And when I get old enough, they're going to ask me to sing with them. So my first goal was to sing with my mother's gospel group. That was my first goal, to sing with my mother's group. So I know all the parts. I know everything. So the piano, because of that happening all the time, that constant of the singing, and then the piano was sort of like, oh, but Aunt Teresa doesn't play like that. She's not doing, she's like, this is not Mozart 16th note runs or something. My aunt is doing something stomp down, like throwing down some heavy chords and stuff. Right. So I was like, wait a minute, how come I'm having to learn that like that, and my aunt is doing this other thing, like just feeling it. So I think what happened to me is I continued to play the piano and take my lessons and do my lessons. But I was also playing all the little pop tunes that were happening at the time. And, and my father would come home from work and sort of show me off to his friends and say, oh, play that for Mr. Alfonso, that sort of thing. So I was I was all over the place with the music. But I think I decided to do the singing part. Like I really wanted to sing. And I didn't really think that there was anything happening there. I just wanted to copy my mom. So I think what happened to me was I developed more interest in vocalizing than I did actually becoming this piano player or pianist. So I took a very serious turn. And when I got into my double-digit years, early, like adolescent years, 10, 11, I entered a junior high choir in junior high and just decided I wanted to be alto because everybody knows the soprano. Everybody knows the melody already. That's no challenge. And since my mother I kind of knew how the parts stacked up, I decided I was going to be an alto, and that's what I wanted to do. So I just did that, and I never stopped. I just never stopped from the time I started doing choral music. I just always sang. So the music in my house, the music in my life, was very much of religious nature. All the hymns, all the gospel tunes, everything, the revivals, you name it. I was there. We sometimes went to church 5 nights a week in my early, from the time I was I went to church every night from the time I was 11 to about 14 or 15.
So what did your parents think when you wanted to play jazz and not gospel, and you wanted to, move to New York?
So my mother was my mother's my ace boon coon. My mother was always a force and a make of that. You could count on the fact that if she said it, if she believed it, it was so. And she never questioned anything I wanted to do whatsoever. It was just all encouragement. On the other hand, my father, and you got to remember, I said, almost like it's a fundamental religious everything. So we were taught that this music was a gift, and it was a gift for the whole religious track. And anyone who did it professionally, we don't do this to make money or to take money. So there was this double message. It was like a message like, shame on you, but if you don't use it, you're going to lose it. You'll lose it if you don't use it. But shame on you if you get money for using it that you might lose. It's like, my father, it's actually a paradox. For as much as my mother encouraged me, my father has never heard me perform professionally. And
you were Curtis then, huh?
And he has just turned 92.
Wow.
And my mother passed about 20 years ago, but my father has yet to hear me on a stage as myself. Wow. And what you know about me, my father doesn't. He doesn't know. I think over the years, someone would say he might be in the market, and someone would say, "Aren't you Carmen Lundy's father?" "Oh, yes, that's my daughter." I've heard stories where I was on BET or something and the television, but he wouldn't watch. I gave him my CDs. I gave him all my CDs. I've invited him to my concerts. I've been invited back to my hometown, Miami, to do these major concerts over my career, and he was never accept a ticket. So that's a very painful, very sad truth and reality that I live with every day of my life.
Yeah.
My mother, if not for her, I don't know what I'd be doing. I didn't hear jazz. I grew up listening to gospel music. There was a cousin, Joe Lewis, who played the hell out of the guitar. So the family would just go berserk whenever he came to town. Joe Lewis is in town, and everybody would put on their Sunday best and go out Saturday night and just rock, okay? Mm-hmm. I have an aunt, my mother's sister, who had a friend who owned a record store, Rogers Record Shop in Perrine. And she was his good friend. So she got all the latest of everything. And her favorite was Nina Simone. So even her nickname is Peaches because of that song, For Women. My Name is Peaches.
Yeah, my name is Peaches.
Yeah, her nickname is Peaches. So I got all the music, growing up and, friends in school and stuff. I heard everything, but I wasn't really allowed to participate. So what I did as the oldest of 7 kids is when I was at home after school and the homework and all that good stuff, I was at the piano pretty much because it was a way to watch them and, still be responsible, quote unquote. And, every now and again, I'd be out playing and having fun like everybody else. But for the most part, the piano was where I could be. It was a safe place for me. Okay. And so around high school, now I'm in high school chorus, right? I've done this chorus thing, and I'm in high school, and now there's the end of my junior year or something. So some of my classmates in my choral program knew that I played piano. So they'd ask me, "Can you play this can you play this song for me? I want to be in the talent show. Can you play this? We got a little gig," that kind of stuff. Right, I was playing piano as kind of a vocal duet, and I'm singing, alto, and I'm playing piano, and the other person's out front and getting all the love and the applause and stuff, and I'm back here. Right. So eventually, I asked this young man who came into my choral program, Jewish kid from North Miami Beach, I asked him to accompany me because I wanted to sing for the talent show that year. So Roberta Flack was all the rage then. First Time Ever I Saw Your Face, and that great record she did with Ron Carter on bass, and great entree into her career. And I would do a couple of tunes. I think I did Donny Hathaway's tune, Trying Times, from Roberta Flack's record. And that was the first time I ever performed on my own in high school. But this kid who had come in to accompany us on our concerts would play for me, and his chord didn't sound like my chord. So, I'm playing that, it's really simple things. Basically, gospel chord changes are rooted in first and second position, major chords, minor chords. But he was adding like the ninth and the seventh, and what are you doing? So I asked him. He was playing. It just sounded so rich when he played. So I asked him, "What are you doing, David? Wait a second, how did you play that, see?" And he showed me, and I thought, "Oh, whoa." So he said, "Oh, I'm taking jazz lessons." And jazz? And I'm like, "Jazz? What is jazz? What are you talking about?" So it was my high school friend who introduced me to jazz. I'd heard blues, I'd heard gospel, I'd heard all the Motown stuff, I'd heard all the pop rock of my generation. But he single-handedly opened my eyes to this whole new wonderful world. And that's what happened to Carmen.
Wow. So then you went to college.
So I go to college. I'm an opera major. Okay. I'm a classical voice major. I entered the opera program. But guess what? Wait a minute.
Did they not have jazz program back then?
They had a jazz program. I didn't know. So
but you didn't know. Okay.
I didn't know. So David, the same guy I'm talking about, David, during that summer between high school and the first year of college, he kind of got a couple of gigs where we would go into nursing homes, and I played the tambourine and sing, and we had about 4 or 5 voices, and he played the piano. Okay. And then he got a gig playing for the University of Miami Youth Jazz Ensemble, and they needed a vocalist. Right. So some of my earliest stuff is with a big band. It's so strange. So I'm doing Michael Brecker. The Brecker brothers had a group called Dreams, and there were some vocal tunes on that record. So here I am doing the Brecker brothers tunes with a youth jazz orchestra as David as pianist. So now I'm like, where am I going? I don't know about anything about. Nobody said to me I had to apply for colleges. Nobody ever told me that. So my high school choir director is the reason why I got into the University of Miami music program. So I entered as an opera major, and David went to the University of Miami and entered the jazz program. So my friend from high school ends up at the same school. I ended up in the same school as him without discussing it, without ever knowing any of this was going to happen.
See, this music was calling you all along. It was all along and just dragging you along.
So here I am. I'm doing everything. I'm doing all the things you're supposed to do as an opera major. Okay. And the reason I chose it because as a singer at that time, the curriculum offered music education and applied voice. Those were the only things I could do as a singer. And I knew that I wanted to perform. I knew that the education part was not going to be the major necessarily, even though I end up, doing master classes all over the world now. But I entered that applied voice program. So I did everything you were supposed to do. So now David is upstairs in the jazz department, and we're hanging and stuff. And David books a gig, and I'm the vocalist on the gig he books. So now I'm learning all these jazz tunes and doing all the pop tunes, and that's when Chick Corea and Light as a Feather and all of that, and Herbie Hancock's Chameleon, all that was the rage. But David introduced me to Bill Evans, Herbie Hancock, Cannonball Adderley, Miles Davis. I'm learning this from my high school best friend. So we were just on this track from like, bam, we hit the ground running. So the word got around school that I was doing all of this non-classical stuff. Okay. So the word got around that I was doing this stuff. So other of his friends would say, Carmen, I got this tune for my class. I have to write this thing. Can you sing it for me? And David's piano teacher started a class because I wasn't the only one that was sort of fooling around upstairs with the jazz department. So David's piano teacher started a course that was a 90-minute course showing us this repertoire and giving us an understanding of the value of the lyric, the value of the composition. All of these things were happening to me at the same time. So it's like I had this double major. So the word got out now that I'm doing all this stuff. So the next year, my sophomore year, they allowed me to switch my major to jazz, but they didn't have a vocal curriculum for the jazz singer. Okay. They allowed me to change my major, but that meant that since they didn't have a curriculum for me, I had to continue with my classical studies, and vocally speaking, and I had to take the improv course with the jazz guys. I had to take the composition course with the jazz guys. I had to take the arranging courses. Meanwhile, I still got the classical theory. So I'm just like, and I got a gig from 9 to 1 every night. The entire time I went to the University of Miami, I sang from 9 to 1 every night, somewhere in Miami. Somewhere in Miami. And, you know, all the greats would come in to Miami Beach. But one of my first gigs was on Miami Beach. First. And then the second gig was on at the Eden Rock Hotel, which is still right there next to the Fontainebleau. And I had that gig like every night. And then I have an 8:30 theory class, you know.
And you still managed to make class in the morning.
You bet.
So you wanted to complete your degree, obviously. That was priority.
Well,
because you couldn't just...
I had to. And okay, this is with respect to my father. Because my father thought I was going to the University of Miami to become a teacher. He didn't know I was in the jazz department, okay? But he was the reason why I could afford it, really, because he was the one that was making it possible for me to go to school. I never had like a scholarship or anything, you know? So if it wasn't for my dad thinking that I was going to be this music teacher, if he had known I was doing jazz, I think he would have, I don't know what would have happened. But by that time I was knee deep anyway, and I was going to make a way. I was going to make that happen. So, so here I am, you know, because of that confluence of different, you know, energies, all kind of setting the stage for what would become a wonderful career for me. Right. I just wanted to be a singer. I just wanted to sing. I wanted to sing pretty. I just wanted to, you know, be in the pocket and just hit. That's it. Yeah.
You didn't see all this. You didn't see all this having a record label, you didn't see any of that, huh?
Having a publishing company.
Having a publishing company. And when do you find time to paint? Because that's like you've designed your album covers, many of them. When do you find time to do all of that? You're amazing. Oh,
thank you. I mean, we're talking now. I'm going to just say it. I'm in my 5th decade, okay, of doing this. I don't know how much we can really cram into this conversation today. But after the University of Miami years, a lot of my classmates, including Pat Metheny, Hiram Bullock, and so many others, Bobby Watson, my brother Curtis, and, you know, Mark Egan and Gil Goldstein and, you know, Steve Williams. Jeez. I mean, and so after that phase, everybody started saying, well, I'm moving to New York. Somebody said, well, I'm moving to New York. And it's like, well, what happened to, he graduated, he moved to New York. So where is that? Oh, he moved to New York. So I was like, wait a minute, everybody, what's happening with this New York? So I said, well, I guess that's what I'm doing too. My last year at the University of Miami, we got a tour with the band that I was singing with, the University of Miami Jazz Band. I got a tour and we went to it's one of those tours that started out at the Montreux Jazz Festival and continued on to Northern Africa. I mean, it was just ridiculous. Okay, so we did a whole summer of touring. And at the Montreux Jazz Festival, I met the greats. I still have all their autographs. I got everybody. I met everybody. It was the first time not the first time I saw Ella live. I saw Ella live in Miami, but it was the first time I saw her in the world. Like,
wow, yeah.
The great Ella Fitzgerald and so many others. So after that summer was my last year of college. I said, that's it. I'll move to New York. Oh, how do you do that? What do you do? So I just began to prepare. And so, well, you got to have a demo, Carmen, and you got to have this, But I had learned how to write my charts. Ladies, musicians, men, are you listening? I had learned how to write my charts out. So when I went to the gig to sit in.
You mean no iReal Pro? No iReal Pro? You wrote your own?
I took, well, that was, those courses. I had to pass those classes, arranging it.
Yeah, right. Exactly. I mean, it was all laid out for you. Like it was a perfect storm for you. Not storm, but it was just everything was.
Yeah, you could call it that.
Yeah.
So I had those skills. So when I got to New York, my point, I guess I had this thing about the girl singer, the singer. I had this thing, and I walked in there with it, and I probably still have it. I'm a musician who happens to be a vocalist. That's my instrument, voice. But I am a musician, just like you and you and you and you, and just you on the bass and you on the piano and you on the drums and you on that saxophone. I'm a musician too. So it was really important for me to establish that when I got to New York. Here, A flat, da-da-da, E. All right, I know it's in B. B? What do you mean B? Yeah, the tune's in B. You don't know how, here's a chart. But I also taught myself a lot of the tunes. I would just turn pages. I would just take a fake book, open it up, and just play the tune and teach myself the melody because I was looking for a way to come to the stage with tunes that people knew, but with something fresh, something, my own little, I'm sorry. To come, let me just turn this down. To come to the stage with something that distinguished me. I'm now all of 23 years old. But those musicians knew right away, she's listening. She actually knows. And I got to New York and I got a great gig. I got a gig singing every Friday and Saturday night in the same club with different players every week. So I was sort of like the house vocalist. And these players didn't know. I'm talking like major. If I said Kenny Barron to you, if I said Don Pullen, Walter Bishop Jr. There were so many people that I sang with because I was this house vocalist. I did that for a year and learned so many tunes and sang so much music. So
did you have a day job too?
Never.
Did you also never had a day job?
Never.
I'm so jealous.
Never had a day job. You get an email from Carmen, you're gonna go, what's wrong with this formation of this email?
My gosh.
All of this kind of, I'm in New York now, and I'm just like, I'm doing this. So what I did was I had a demo tape. I made a demo tape in Miami at Criteria Recording Studios. It's still there to this day. Aretha Franklin, and one of my first recording sessions at Criteria was with James Brown as a background singer on a record called Body Heat or something. But I made a demo at Criteria and took my demo to Columbia Records, to CBS, because it's like, when you're ready to go start at the top and then work your way down. So it took, many tries of trying to get a record deal, tons, with Blue Note, with Verve, with Columbia, every major label, all of them turned me down. Every last one of them turned me down. I started for 7. I did 7 years in New York before I made my first record. I had done little giglets, I call them. Yeah. So, but I ended up, my demo for Columbia, the final one that I did was the record called Good Morning Kiss. that everybody who knows my music from day one knows that Good Morning Kiss is my first record. And that was my demo tape for Columbia, which they turned down.
Wow.
So my career has had a strange, meandering sort of, I don't know. And I think, what is it about what I do as a vocalist that no major record label will ever want anything to do with?
Because you were being set up for a bigger thing. For your
you think
own,
so?
Yes, you were being set up because you have your own label now because you saw the importance of that. And come on, Carmen.
Well, think about it. Well, the music we sing has been sung out by the greats. Yeah. Okay. And every time we come to the music, the bar that Ella and Sarah, okay, the bar, Billy, what they gave us, what they handed us, they're like, here, now you take it. That's actually happened to me. I went to hear Carmen McRae at the Blue Note. Gosh. And I had just read a Jet magazine where Carmen McRae was concerned that she didn't see any young vocalists doing jazz out there on the scene. I was like, and this was in 1983, okay? Carmen McRae's at the Blue Note, and I was like, wait a minute, I have to let her know that we actually are out here, So I go to the Blue Note. I go to the Blue Note to hear Carmen McRae, and after the set's over, after her night's over, I go backstage, knock, knock, knock. Hello, Miss McRae. My name is Carmen. I just love your show, love your set. I just love your music. I'm just like, and just like in awe of this queen. Right,
exactly.
And she goes,
I can't imagine.
So I said, I just want you to know that we really are. We are out here, and thank you for guiding us and showing us how this gets done. Right? I'm just having a lovely conversation with her. And she goes, "Oh, well, then I have to hear you sing." That's what Carmen McRae said to me. Oh. I have that. So I'm like,
so she came to see you sing? She came to see you.
This is what happened. So I was like, no. I said, well, and then she goes, well, you know what? My gig is over, and my apartment is down the street from here. So I was like, okay, I will, because the Blue Note has a jam session after the main acts are done. Okay. So I go to the stage, and the musicians are getting ready to jam or whatever, and I said, Miss McRae. Carmen McRae asked me to sing. So the funny thing was the Walkman had just come out, and my friend that had come with me had her Walkman and recorded the whole thing. So Carmen McRae, so there's some introduction. I go up on the stage. She sits in the seat that I was sitting in the club. She goes and sits right next to my friend who has her Walkman running.
Oh my gosh.
And you can hear Carmen McRae going, oh, that guitar player does not know the changes. That was the first thing she said. And then, so I think I did 2 songs. I did What Are You Doing the Rest of Your Life? And then I did Lush Life, because all singers want to prove they got this shit together. Excuse me.
To do Lush Life.
Life, right?
Yeah, that's true.
So I did Lush Life. And so she's like, oh, she's lovely. That's what Carmen McRae's. I have the tape. I still have the tape. Because, she's lovely, right? But I can remember when Sarah Vaughan came to hear my gig at Green Street. I can remember this. And Betty Carter, and my brother played with her for years.
Right.
And I would go up to her and say, hi, Betty. My name is Carmen. I'm Curtis's sister. And I'm trying, I want to do jazz. And she would just go, you're like, oh yeah, bye. And I don't know what it was. I think I was in a gig in Switzerland with Walter Bishop Jr. And she was on that same festival. So Betty and I crossed again, like this is years later. And she's either leaving the stage or headed to somewhere. And I see her again. And bang, I was like, Betty, Miss Carter. I'm Curtis's sister. Remember we met, blah, 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 blah. So I think that's when she actually realized that I was really serious about it. Yeah, but I've had this wonderful opportunity to sit at the feet of the masters. You understand?
You really have, yes.
And not just the vocalists, okay? Dizzy, everybody, Ray Brown, anybody who was still kicking at that time, Junior Cook, all those great, Jackie Byard, all those great horn players that I sat in with in that first gig in New York. So I'm lucky that Curtis and my generation with Curtis, me, Bobby Watson, we were the generation that really got to witness all the masters who were still on the bandstand. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
And now, of course, most of them are gone. We're still losing some of our iconic figures. We just lost Pharaoh Sanders not too long ago, a couple of weeks ago. Mm-hmm. And so we got that visceral, the synergy, in the room. I mean, Billy Eckstine came to hear. Well, he came to hear me, but he walked into the club. I was singing this club called this Grand Finale. He walked into the club, and my breath, I think I just stopped breathing. Right. Right. So I think, okay, what should I sing? What should I sing? So I do Body and Soul. Then I do Body and Soul, piano vocal gig. Mm-hmm. So after the set was over, Mr. Eckstein approached me. Yes, he did. I'm sitting over in the corner for the next set, waiting for my, having my little space. He walks up to me and he takes his hand out like he's going to shake my hand. And you know what he says? That handsome man walked up to me, grabbed my hand and squeezed it and said, "It's, I'm yours."
Oh, no. What did you sing?
Helping me to fight and the wisdom to know wrong from right. I want to shine a light, shine a light, shine